They never valued you when you were there. Not really. They consumed your energy like parasites feeding on a dying host, took your loyalty for granted, mistook your kindness for weakness, and convinced themselves that you'd always be around, a constant, a resource, a thing they owned without ever having to earn. And then you disappeared. And that's when the education began. See, your absence became a curriculum they never asked for, but desperately needed. Every empty chair where you used to sit, every silence where your voice used to fill the void, every moment you weren't there to fix their problems or absorb their chaos, it all became a mirror held up to their faces, forcing them to see the gaping holes you left behind. And here's the twisted beauty of it. You didn't have to say a single word. You didn't have to explain yourself, justify your departure, or give them closure. Your absence did all the talking. It screamed lessons into their souls that your presence could never whisper loud enough for them to hear. Because when you were there, you were furniture, background noise, the reliable one, the one who showed up, who listened, who sacrificed, who bent until your spine nearly snapped just to accommodate their comfort. They confused your availability with lack of worth. They thought because you gave freely, it meant what you offered was cheap. And that's the fundamental mistake they make about wolves who've learned to wear sheep's clothing. They think because you don't bare your teeth, you don't have any. But then you vanished, and suddenly the infrastructure of their lives started crumbling. The emotional labor you performed invisibly gone. The problems you solved before they even noticed them, piling up like corpses in a plague pit. The stability you provided just by existing in their orbit, shattered like glass under a hammer. And now they're standing in the wreckage, finally awake, finally seeing, finally understanding that you weren't just another piece on the board. You were holding the entire game together. Your absence is a masterclass in value. It's the most brutal teacher because it doesn't explain, doesn't comfort, doesn't offer second chances. It just exists, cold, permanent, and devastatingly clear. They're learning what true loss feels like, not the Hollywood version with dramatic music and poetic closure, but the raw, grinding reality of waking up day after day and feeling the weight of your absence like a phantom limb that still aches, even though it's gone. And here's what they're discovering in that classroom of emptiness. They need you more than you ever needed them. That's the equation they got backwards. While you were there, they convinced themselves they were doing you a favor by allowing you in their lives, by gracing you with their attention, by letting you serve their needs. But absence reveals truth like acid reveals bone. Strip away the pretense, the social games, the comfortable lies, and what remains is this: you were the foundation, and they were just living in the house you built. Now they're calling. Now they're reaching out. Now they remember your birthday, ask how you've been, say they miss you. But you know what's really happening, don't you? They're not missing you, they're missing what you did for them. They're not mourning the person, they're mourning the service. They don't want you back, they want their problem solved, their ego stroked, their emotional landfill managed by someone else again. They want the old you, the convenient you, the you that existed for their benefit. But that version is dead, and you killed it. Not out of rage or revenge, though they'll tell themselves that story to make you the villain. You killed it out of necessity, out of self-preservation, out of the simple recognition that staying would mean dying slowly while they watched and wondered why you weren't smiling anymore. Your absence isn't punishment, it's evolution. It's the caterpillar refusing to crawl just because the other insects are too afraid to fly. The lesson your absence teaches is ancient and unforgiving. People don't appreciate what they have until it's gone. But here's the darker truth underneath that cliché. Most people don't deserve to have it back once they lose it. Because appreciation born from absence isn't real appreciation. It's just panic. It's just the scrambling desperation of someone who realizes they've lost access to a resource they were exploiting. Real appreciation happens in the presence, in the moment, in the daily choice to see and value what's right in front of you. They had that chance. They had 1,000 chances. And they squandered every single one. Your presence was a gift they treated like an obligation. Your words were wisdom they heard as noise. Your effort was sacrifice they interpreted as duty. And now your absence is teaching them the language of consequences, a dialect they never bothered to learn because they assumed the universe would always translate in their favor. But you are not the universe's translator anymore. You're not here to make things easier, clearer, softer. You're gone. And in that space where you used to be, they're finally learning to read the writing that was always on the wall. They're learning that loyalty has limits, that patience can be exhausted, that good people don't stay good people forever when they're treated like doormats wearing halos. They're learning that silence is a weapon far more devastating than any argument, because arguments invite response, create dialogue, leave doors cracked open. But silence is a door welded shut and painted black. Silence says, I don't even consider you worth the energy of my anger anymore. And that's a form of rejection that cuts deeper than any insult ever could. Your absence is teaching them about power dynamics they never understood. When you were present, they thought they held the power to include you, acknowledge you, validate you. But power isn't about who can give attention. It's about who can withdraw it and watch the empire crumble. Your absence revealed that you were never the beggar at their table. You were the table. And now they're eating off the floor, wondering how everything fell apart so quickly. They're learning about dependency. Not the obvious kind, not the financial or practical dependencies they could name and shame, but the invisible architecture of emotional and spiritual dependency that held their world together. They depended on you to be the mature one, the reasonable one, the one who absorbed chaos and radiated calm. They depended on you to fill the silences they were too shallow to navigate. They depended on you to be the mirror that reflected back a better version of themselves than the truth would allow. And now that mirror is gone, and they're seeing themselves clearly for the first time in years, and they hate what they see. But here's where it gets beautiful in that twisted, dark way that only truth can be beautiful. You didn't leave to teach them a lesson. That's what they'll never understand. You didn't orchestrate your absence as some elaborate revenge plot or calculated power move. You left because staying was killing you. You left because you finally loved yourself more than you loved the idea of being needed by people who never truly saw you. Your absence is a side effect of your survival, not a strategy for their suffering. But they suffer anyway. Because that's what happens when you lose something irreplaceable. You suffer, regardless of intent. And maybe, just maybe, that suffering will transform them. Maybe they'll use the lessons your absence teaches to become better, deeper, more conscious beings. Maybe they'll carry the weight of losing you until it strengthens them instead of crushing them. Maybe they'll look at the next person who offers them loyalty and kindness and actually see them, value them, protect them. Maybe. Or maybe they'll learn nothing. Maybe they'll repeat the pattern with someone else, someone younger or more naive or more desperate to be needed than you ever were. Maybe they'll tell themselves stories where you're the villain and they're the victim, rewriting history until their conscience is clear and their ego is intact. Maybe they'll skim the surface of the lesson your absence offers and dive right back into the shallow end where they've always lived. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter anymore. Whether they learn or don't learn, whether they grow or stay stunted, whether they eventually understand or die confused, none of it matters to you now. Because you're not there to see it. You're not there to care. You're not there to hold their hand through the consequences of their own actions. You're somewhere else entirely, somewhere they can't reach, building a life on frequencies they can't perceive. Your absence taught them more than your presence ever could, because presence is patient, forgiving, constantly offering second chances. But absence is final. Absence is the period at the end of a sentence they thought would go on forever. Absence is the exam they can't retake, the deadline they missed, the door that only opened once and now stands permanently closed. And in that finality, in that irreversible reality, the lesson crystallizes: you were never guaranteed. You were never owed. You were always a choice you made, a gift you gave, a grace you extended. And when you stopped choosing them, when you reclaimed your gift, when you withdrew your grace, that's when they finally understood what they had. But understanding came too late. And that's the most powerful lesson of all. The lesson that echoes in the empty spaces where you used to exist. The lesson that wakes them up at 3 in the morning when the world is quiet enough to hear their own thoughts. The lesson that will haunt them in every future relationship when they wonder if this person will leave too, if they'll lose this one the same way they lost you. Your absence is the teacher that never stops teaching. It's the ghost that never stops haunting. It's the mirror that never stops reflecting. And the curriculum is simple but brutal. You don't know what you have until it's gone. And some things, once gone, are gone forever. And you were one of those things. Irreplaceable, unrepeatable, unreachable now. So let them sit with that. Let them graduate from the school of your absence with that degree hanging heavy around their necks. Let them carry the weight of lessons they learned too late, wisdom they earned through loss, knowledge they'd trade anything to unlearn if it meant having you back. But you're not going back. And that's not cruelty. That's self-respect. That's survival. That's the wolf finally walking away from the sheep that mistook its restraint for domestication. They wanted to see what you were without them. Now they know. You're free. You're whole. You're gone. And their education continues in your absence, semester after semester, lesson after brutal lesson, a curriculum they'll never graduate from because the degree they're seeking, your forgiveness, your return, your presence again, was never up for grabs in the first place. Your absence taught them more than your presence ever could. And you weren't even trying to teach them anything. You were just trying to survive. And isn't that the most devastating lesson of all?